How's everyone doing? Thanks for joining me in the garage today. The project I have on the go is this Lawnmower push mower that has a Kohler engine. And what I'm going to show you how to do today is to change the head gasket on one of these Kohler engines, XT6, XT7. I imagine a lot of them are very similar. So that's today's project. Now, you might be asking, well, how do I know I need to change my head gasket? Well, if you go through the starts troubleshooting video that I have, then you'll see that first thing I always do is check for fuel, then check for spark, and then I check for timing, because these are the easiest things to check for. The last thing would be compression. I also have a video as well to diagnose the cause of low compression. Now, one of those items is a blown head gasket. So go ahead and watch those videos if you think they might apply to your situation. And if so, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and change the head gasket on one of these Kohler engines. Now, first thing I'm going to do is to start taking off some of these covers. So the beauty thing with Kohler and Honda, for instance, is they pretty much use the same bolt sizes and nut sizes for a lot of their stuff. So they're going to use a lot of 10 mil items on this bad boy. Take all that off in one assembly. Gasket back on. Now I'm going to come over here to the side and take off the air cover box, air cleaner box. And this one's pretty bad. Now on the side over here we got 3 10 mil. Two nuts and a 10 mil bolt. We'll get that guy off. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this auto choke mechanism here that's attached to the muffler, and you'll see why here later. There is a take the spark plug boot off. There's a 10 mil nut here, and there's another 10 mil nut on top of the muffler over here, which I can zip off with my gun. And that'll release this guy. It just comes up. You'll see why here in a little bit. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is just pull off this whole carburetor and put it aside. And this will stay attached. That just stays over here out of the way. Now, to get the head bolts off, there are two, one here, and then there's also two underneath this valve cover. So we have to take the valve cover off. Luckily, 10 mil. Pour those guys off, and that one just came right off. Sometimes they're a little sticky, so try to be careful with them because there's a gasket that we don't want to have to replace on the back side there. Alright, so those other two are going to be right back in here. There's one here and then one here at the bottom, right there. So those are all 10 mil. Now you might be able to get them off with your impact. Now they might not come out so easy, so you might have to use a socket and a ratchet. And then this whole head is going to come off all together with the exhaust. And here we go. So that's how we get it off. Now there's going to be a little bit of oil in there that's going to leak out, but nothing too severe. And right in behind here is where our head gasket's going to be. Alright, so you take all this off. There's the push rods. They might fall out here. That's okay. That was just one of those bolts. And looks like the head gasket has stayed on the head side. Sometimes half of it will stay on the head and half will stay on the block, but sometimes you get lucky and they will stay on one side or the other. Makes it easier to get off. And now it's going to take you over to my bench. Alright guys, so we're over here on the bench and one push rod's already fallen out. Take the other one out anyways. And all the other bolts are going to come out. Now, this head gasket usually is stuck on here. And an easy way to get the head gasket off, especially if you think you might reuse it, is just use a long X-Acto knife here and stick it up and underneath and then work your way all the way around on both sides and you'll get your head gasket off. If it's a metal one, a lot of times you can reuse them. Sometimes they're like a, I don't know, like a cardboard material almost nowadays, a lot of them, so those ones wouldn't be reusable. Alright, so that's how we got the head off. It's pretty simple. Now what we're going to do is just clean up the surfaces, the mating surfaces. So this particular head gasket is actually not bad. It's still actually in good condition. I'm just going to reuse this for the sake of the video. Here's an example of a blown head gasket, and you can see there's a piece actually even missing off this gasket, and that would give you basically zero compression if you try to do a compression test, and the mower would just not run. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is try and clean up the surface just a little bit here on the head. It will also clean up the top of the piston and the mating surface on that side as well. I did not take out the spark plug. I mean, you could take out the spark plug, but here's the spark plug coming in. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just take a little wire brush thing, put it in your drill, and I'm just going to clean up all the deposits and then the mating surface here. Alright, so as you can see, it's a lot better, shinier, no residual stuff left. Sometimes I take just a piece of Scotch-Brite here as well and kind of clean it up the last little bit as well. It doesn't have to be 1000% perfect, guys. We're not like rebuilding this engine, we're just changing a head gasket. Then I'll take a little bit of carb spray. nice clean rag. Alright, now this half is ready to go. So I'll do the same thing on the other side over here where the piston's at. What I'll do is put the piston at top dead center here, so now the junk falls in there. And I'll do the exact same thing. Now these are just little guides. You can take these out to kind of help get around them, because you can see there's a little bit of leftover material there. And I'll hit the top of the piston, which is not too bad as well. Okay. Once again, just hit it with a little bit of Scotch-Brite. Nice. So say it's not the station we'll work on here, so nice clean rag. That looks way better. Okay. Now we're ready to put the head back on with the either the new or the used head gasket. First put my guides back in. Put my head gasket back on. Try and line up the head with the guides. Okay. But what I'm going to do is maybe put a couple of these bolts, get them started. One in there should be good enough for now, just to kind of keep it in place. I know it's in place now. And now I'm just going to try and get a little bit more light in here. Try and feed this push rod down in there into its slot. Now, oh no, this guy is not in for sure. This is something you want to make sure you get right. As you can see, it's a little finicky. Be a little bit easier if I had the engine off of the mower. Okay, that one looks good. This one looks good as well. Now I might have to loosen these off. These rocker arms. That's the other thing now. Either that or loosen off that head bolt. Just get a little bit more slack. And you want the head of this push rod to be sitting in this little dimple on the rocker arm. So I got them all lined up now. Okay, good. Now when we tighten these down, you're going to want to tighten them down in a crisscross pattern. So one, two, three, four. Now I'm sure there's a spec on that. I'm just putting them on with my torque wrench or my driver. So if you wanted to look them up, I'm sure you could find on the internet, I'm sure you could find a resource that would tell you the spec. I'm just going to use a little bit of common sense and get them nice and snug. If you want to look it up, go ahead and do that and get yourself a little torque wrench. That's probably the best way to do it. Okay. Now what I like to do is when I get the head back on, I like to just spin the flywheel here just to make sure that those rocker arms go back and forth, which is opening and closing the valves. You can see there it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, good. Alright guys, so now I'm just going to put everything back together. Put this carb back on. These two little 10mm nuts. Put those guys down. Put my valve cover back on. Once again, sure respect for all these bolts. Alright, so that's good. I'll put my spark plug boot back down where it goes. I'll go ahead and put the air cleaner box back on. A little spacer. Now these ones you don't want to put on too tight, guys, because you can sort of bend this air box and it eventually is not going to make a nice tight seal with the carburetor. Just be careful. Okay, so that's all good. First I'm going to put a new filter on this guy. But just for testing purposes, I'm going to leave this filter in here. this guy back on. Sometimes these things can be a little finicky just getting them lined up. If so, you might have to take them off and put them on one at a time. Here's your starter recoil. There we go. Go. This guy. There we go. 3 more nuts and I think we got her done. So as you can see, guys, not extremely difficult. And what did that take me, like 20 minutes? So you can do a lot of this stuff yourself, guys. Just a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of know-how, and just a little bit of willingness to try. Because if the head gasket's blown, the mower's junk anyway, so you can't break it any more than it's already broken. Alright guys, so that wraps up how to change a head gasket on one of these Kohler engines. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and please hit the subscribe button and the like button. It really helps me out on the channel. And until next time, guys, take care.